Welcome to another episode of Discograffiti's wildly in-depth Beach Boys series and Your Dreams Come True, where Brian Wilson freaks like you and me get our chance to delve deep into the barely believable history and prodigious discography of my favorite band of all time, and also coincidentally the best, along with a slew of over 50 top-shelf guests, ranging from musicians inspired by their work, family members, documentary directors, songwriting collaborators, Beach Boys authors, producers, touring band members, and for good measure, some of the Beach Boys themselves. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and special thanks goes out to co-producers Chuck Granata, Dennis Dykin, and Mark Freed, without whom this series would not have happened. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. The next entry in the Chuck Granata Pet Sounds interview series is Chuck's chat with David Wild, a contributing editor at Rolling Stone magazine. He's published books including Seinfeld, The Totally Unauthorized Tribute from 1998, and The Grammy Goes To, the official story of music's most coveted award from 2007. He is, I Say, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Neil Diamond from 2009, and others. David hosted the Bravo television series Musicians and has written for the Grammy Awards since 2001, becoming a producer for the show in 2016. In 2022, his Naked Lunch podcast debuted, featuring a wide range of guests, including Graham Nash, Susanna Hoffs, Peter Frampton, Jimmy Kimmel, and many more. Here's just a few of the many things that David discusses with Discograffiti in this podcast. Why Pet Sounds is perfect, Tony Asher's incredibly commendable side gig, the reliance on Brian's inner child to produce greatness, and what Brian Wilson revealed as his favorite Beach Boys record to David. Here it is then, David Wild.
Now, Marilyn has said to me unequivocally that she feels that anyone that collaborated with Brian was basically riding his coattails, that it was Brian's music and no one else's, and I could see that perspective too, you know. I mean, one could argue that it is Brian's music and everyone else.
Yeah, I would say that those lyrics, they're intelligent, they're never pretentious, they're, moving. I think so many lyrics, once rock tried to get good, post Sgt. Pepper,
right?
Certainly. Some of it was just, embarrassing ambitions of poetry, just terrible, middle school poetry, basically. And it's amazing how those songs they have like a Tin Pan Alley economy, but they're artful and just really subtle and nice.
And that was unusual in rock, wasn't it, in 1966?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a little bit classier than rock was. Yeah, and I do think, I would think you'd want to give Tony some credit, because they seem, even if they're not written by Brian, they're things that you'd think Brian would be writing. If he were, they speak to Brian, they speak to the music, which I guess that's probably how it worked. Someone had to be sensitive to what was the sort of pained romance of the music, and they got that in the lyrics, which, is harder than it sounds, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it came easy. And Tony definitely, I give him a ton of credit. I have one whole section of the book is writing the album, and most of that is in Tony's words. I really wanted to give him that forum.
Did Tony ever write with any other major writers after that?
Not to this extent, no. I think he wrote a few songs, and he's been friendly with a lot of other. He worked with Paul Williams, and, well, he's an interesting guy. He does this whole thing with music and children who are sick, and he gets songwriters to write songs for them, as like a request. Very interesting, kind of benevolent thing. And he's gotten a lot of big songwriters. Jimmy Webb, some other people have written songs. And
yeah, it's interesting. He likes to work with, he liked his work with children, and he worked with Brian, because that was...
Right.
Brian's like the I don't know how old Brian is right now, but there's still something either oddly or charmingly childish about him.
You're right, and that's very true.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I don't think people were talking about their inner child in those days.
Right.
But Brian was his inner child was pretty close to the surface, it seemed like.
It was almost like, he was kind of like bumping along, like he was into his music, but then in 1966, he could have just gotten passed off as like this kind of, artistic eccentric,
I know one time, the first time I met him, it was like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction year they got in. And I was in the press room, and I went up to him and I said, Brian, what's your favorite Beach Boys record? He goes, Keeping the Summer Alive.
Wow, I mean...
You know, and then the second time I said, Brian, just to test him, I said, Brian, what's your favorite Beach Boys album? He goes, Pet Sounds.
Is that funny?
Like he just changed, you know.
A friend of mine interviewed him, went to the house, and this is really what dissuaded me from pursuing it with any great, enthusiasm, and got nothing, and walked away with zero to use in this radio show. But one of the last things he asked, and he said to me, he said, I didn't even have the tape recorder was turned off, we were leaving, and I said, Brian, you always say Be My Baby's your favorite song. He said, but come on, really, what is your favorite song? And he goes, without hesitation, Brian went, What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers. Which I thought was really just like, honestly, David, I mean, can I really credibly quote this guy,
But that's actually revealing, because that last record, the record he did with Irving Azoff was very much like a Doobie Brothers.
You mean Imagination?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a Doobie Brothers, like, cheeseball, but not terrible. Kind of like, I like What a Fool Believes.
Well, I like it too.
It's the song of all time.
Right, that was the whole thing. I mean, I thought that was but would you ever expect Brian Wilson to say that?
No.
I mean, it was pretty off the wall, You would think that he would pick a Lennon-McCartney thing, or, if we're straying from the Phil Spector.
Whatever he heard last.
Huh?
It's probably whatever he heard last.
Right, that's the thing. It was like so weird. Like you just picked the thing out of the air. Like, Happy Birthday, my favorite song. So what when you compare Brian to Spector, what's your take on that?
It's just down to maybe, again, completely generational things. Like, I hear the greatness of Spector, but I feel the greatness of, Brian Wilson, and I can't explain it. I mean,
that says it all.
Yeah, I think you put the best part of him down there,
Oh, here's the other thing I wanted to ask you, too. Bruce, Al, and Mike all confirmed that they lobbied for Good Vibrations to be included on Pet Sounds, and that Brian was, really adamant that he did not want it to be part of Pet Sounds. Now, in retrospect, I mean, I guess if it had been part of Pet Sounds, it would have made Pet Sounds on the level of Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that? Should it have been included? What is it? Is it a missing link? Should it have been there instead of Sloop John B?
All right, that concludes your free sneak peek into today's Patreon episode. If you want to hear the rest of it, just visit patreon.com/discograffiti and either purchase this podcast by itself for $4, or better yet, subscribe at the major tier and get access to Discograffiti's 4 weekly episodes. That's Friday's free episode, the Sunday Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound episode, which showcases Patreon members and the Elephant Six world, your Monday bonus episode, and your Wednesday early release ad-free super extended director's cut of that Friday's show. Please keep in mind this is entirely how I support my wife and 6-year-old son, so don't risk feeling badly about yourself by not supporting Discograffiti. Become a member so you don't miss a single thing at patreon.com/discograffiti.